Hi everyone, it's Emily. Welcome to the 10th episode of this podcast. I am currently walking my dog in the park. I'm trying out recording from different places. You might have just heard my dog just actually sneezed. We're just walking on a big playing field at the moment. But yeah, I'm trying to record from different places and just see how it sounds and to have like a different kind of background atmosphere. So let me know what you guys think on Twitter and on my blog comments. Let me know. I'm currently driving home from work, hence the car-like sounds and why I'm kind of talking much louder. I'm on my way home from work. It's a lovely sunny day. I've already had heat rash because it's so sunny. It's been a good day at work, can't complain, but I thought it would be interesting to start recording a podcast in a different location, and I feel like an absolute nutter having started recording in the car. And people probably, actually to be fair, people probably think I'm on my Bluetooth, like hands-free or something like that. I'm not. I'm just shouting out loud to my phone. I didn't used to be able to talk and drive, actually, which is really interesting. And when I was learning to drive, I used to find any noises like super distracting. So I never used to like listen to the radio or be able to have a conversation with a passenger next to me, which was, I don't know. I can understand why, because I was probably going through a lot of different processes in my head at the same time. But I definitely find it much easier now. Sorry, I'm going over a lot of bumps. Like, that's why it's noisy and you can hear my keys. So I'm not doing a very good job of like showing you guys that I can talk at the same time as driving, but I can. I think I slowly sort of preferred having something on in the background. Like when I just like passed my driving test, I used to always have the radio on quite low because I found like it being really weird without having someone in the car with me, because obviously when you're learning to drive you always have someone with you at the same time, and to go like solo all of a sudden is really weird. So yeah, it does help to listen to the radio if like after you pass your test. And I can now hold a conversation whilst doing normal driving things, apart from when reversing. Don't know why. I cannot reverse with the radio turned up or just any distraction. And my sister's a very good one for that. She gets into my car and immediately turns the radio up, and I have to turn it down because I find loud music a problem anyway, but loud music is quite distracting. If there's music on low, it's not a problem. I am at a roundabout. This is really weird, podcasting at the same time. I'm not quite sure what made me want to do this. Anyway, I'm almost home. It's literally not even that far from work. I probably should have walked today, but I couldn't wake up in time. Just indicate. So I hope everyone is well. I'm not really sure what I'm going to cover on this podcast, if I'm honest. It's my 10th podcast, I think, which is actually a little bit crazy when you think about it. I've done 10 podcasts, and I can see the listening figures, and people are actually listening, I can confirm, which is a little bit weird. People listening to my voice. Let me start again. People listening to me on their phones and things. That's a bit weird. To like think about it, I just try not to. Right, I am about to pull into my drive. Hi everyone, I'm currently recording this whilst in the car. I'm in a traffic jam, kind of. It's moving slowly. I do look a bit weird because I'm talking to nobody, but I guess some people might think that I have like Bluetooth hands-free or something, so let's go with that. Let me just let this person onto the roundabout. So yeah, I've just left work. It's super sunny and I have already had heat rash on my hands today because whenever the weather gets hot, I seem to get heat rash really easy. I also, like on my blog, I've written about how I have something called chronic cholinergic urticaria, which is very difficult to say, and I practiced it. But yeah, that means that I come up in hives. So I come up in like a rash or hives whenever the temperature changes, like if I go from a hot room to a cold room, or if the weather improves in the UK, which it has this week. Also just like doing exercise brings it up. So I'm currently already experiencing heat rash, and it's like the second day of sun in the UK, so it's not going great. Yeah, so I'm driving home. If you could hear kids crying then, it's because we just went past a nursery. So I have to make sure I'm in the right lane, which I now am. So I'm now home and I am sat in my bedroom, and I have kind of decided over the past couple of weeks to, as I've mentioned in the kind of intro to this podcast, is to kind of record myself in different environments. So coming up next are a few different clips from some different environments that I've been in lately, and after I've played them I'll discuss how I coped in those environments. So without further ado, have a little listen. Just a quick warning before I play the noises. You might want to turn your volume down if you're listening through headphones or earphones, or just out loud generally, just because it's going to be a little bit louder because some of them are noisy environments. So just turn your volume down a little bit, and I'm going to put beeps in between the different noises. Breadsticks. Mom's gonna be like, what are you doing?
Oh really? That's a
and you just kind of cross with the and you are next to the railroad. It's like there is
So the very first noise that you guys would have heard was actually a busy road that I was crossing with my dog, and it's like a main road near where I live, and it was quite a noisy environment. There were some noisy kind of lorries and bicycles, and also near the start you could probably hear the there was like some loud music playing from some of the cars, which I always find really annoying. Like, I never understand, like, when the weather's good, why people feel the need to play their music out loud. But it's just one of my things. I know people like to play their music loud. But yeah, it can be a bit challenging, just being out and about and that sort of thing can kind of like grate on my mood quite a bit, just like a loud noise, which kind of seems a bit ridiculous, but yeah. So the next bit of sound after that was me in a supermarket. You might have been able to hear me talking. I was with my sister and my mum in a supermarket, and it was kind of about midday, 12:30, and it was super busy, and you could probably hear like a large shopping kind of trolley, like, you know, the kind of things they use to like store all the food in. So like one of the staff members came past me, and that was really loud. And like, also supermarkets are quite kind of bright and colourful places, because obviously they pack a load of like food into like one place, all on the shelves and things like that, and it can be kind of, I don't know, it's hard to explain, like really colour clashy. Like, there's lots of colours, it's really bright, it's really noisy, so I kind of like to kind of run in and run out when I'm doing like shopping. So that was that noise. And then the next noise after that was a kind of housewarming party that I went to. Again, that was quite a loud environment, which I found really difficult, and it kind of, I don't know, like, I heard like later, like in the week after it, that people were like, oh, we wonder why you were so quiet and stuff like that. I was like, well, I'm quite a quiet person usually, like, they don't really know about my sensory problems, but I find it so hard in a loud environment to not only hear people, which is obviously natural, but to process what they're saying and like realise my facial like expressions. Like, because something's loud, I'll show it on my face when I shouldn't, sort of thing. So if someone's talking to me and I don't look very happy, it's because it's quite noisy around and I'm trying to hear what they're saying and I'm trying to think of an answer to say, but I'm not very good at kind of hiding that, and I come across as quite like shy and introverted and whatever. But do you know what, that's just me, and I'm kind of a bit tired of people saying like, oh, everyone says like you're really quiet and stuff. Like, yeah, I am. I've told you, kind of, I've told my friends many times, you know, I'm not a party person. I'm more of a quiet pub, not club person, and yeah, housewarmings are okay, but the smaller the better. And then the final sound was me on a walk with my dog in the park. So you might have heard some birds. You might have also heard like some kind of like plastic kind of like almost like something pulling, and that was my dog pulling on the lead because he was very excited to be out on a walk. So that was really nice. It was very calming. Kind of, I'm able to clear my head, and there's a big field near where I live, which is ideal for that. So those were my little kind of noise excerpts from my life. So I wrote a post on my blog about being autistic in the workplace, and I thought I'd just read it out to you guys in case you haven't already read it. And sometimes it's nicer to hear someone sort of talk through a story rather than read it. So basically, the super lovely Aliana Leary, she's a Boston-based publisher, and she has loads of like digital media skills. Basically, she tweeted a few weeks back asking her followers how could employers help support autistic employees in the workplace. So I basically reached out and I've kind of answered some questions on the topic, and if you want to read the full article that she wrote, just pop over onto my blog, and the blog post is called Autistic in the Workplace. So anyway, some of the questions she asked me were: what does inclusiveness and accessibility mean to you in the workplace? So in case you guys don't know, I currently work as a graphic designer. So to me, it means being understood as a valued team member and employee, but having my difficulties and accessibility needs taken into consideration, so that I'm on the same kind of level playing field as everyone else. Like, I want to be able to work as time efficiently and like effectively as everyone else, but I just need a few like accommodations in place to help me do this well. And then she asked me, what are some of the challenges facing autistic people who are in traditional workplaces, particularly due to the lack of accommodations or accessibility? So I answered by saying that I think there's less awareness or willingness to learn more about people with autism and their difficulties, and I don't know, they're kind of less likely to understand how the work environment affects us and how simple accommodations can really help. So the next question she asked me was, what can employers, co-workers, hiring managers, HR departments, etc. do to better support autistic employees? And I said in response that giving autistic employees more time to process things, for example, like more time to read through and sign forms and things like that. Also like a quiet place or room or just an environment to work from. So open plan offices can be quite difficult as they can be quite noisy and distracting places to work in. And maybe provide like mentors for weekly or bi-weekly catch-ups, just having someone to chat to about work and what you need more help with can be very helpful. And then the next question she asked me was, what stereotypes or myths have you come across about autistic people that affect how they are treated in the workplace? So the only one that I could really think of was like the stereotypes of being kind of slow to understand and complete tasks sometimes. And she asked me if I could give like an specific example of different things that helped me to succeed in the workplace, and if I'd ever been in a situation where I've had to ask for more help or things to be made more accessible for me. I put that I wear sort of earphones in the office. I don't always sort of plug them in or like listen to music kind of with them in. I just kind of put them in just for noise cancelling purposes. I have had to ask people to remove their fluorescent bike jackets from desk hooks near me. You might have read my blog post about that. If not, it's well worth a read. Sensory wise, these are super bright and they're really distracting to me. And I also kind of said that a lot of people listen to their own music rather than have like one loud office radio on, which works well for me. Couple more questions she asked me were, are there any common workplace trends that you feel employers need to rethink in order to make the workplace more inclusive? I put open plan offices can be very distracting and noisy. Like quiet breakaway rooms could be like a really good step forward just to get away from the loud environment if you need to like concentrate on work properly. Skype interviews or over the phone interviews can be quite difficult as it's hard to understand facial expressions, tone of voice, long questions, which I always like feel I need to hear repeated again. Although a face-to-face interview is very intimidating, I feel more comfortable asking for questions to be repeated and being like able to hear and see the interviewer properly. And the last question she asked me was, have I ever worked remotely, or do I have anything to say about the benefits of working remotely or flexible working hours for autistic employees? So I have worked remotely and I do currently have flexible working hours, which does help to sort of split up my time and days between different environments. I do miss out on team discussions and meetings though, if I'm not in, so it can be difficult to catch up on as like I wasn't in the room at the time. The benefits are I can choose my hours, so I can work earlier or later in the day to suit sort of me or how I feel, so that does kind of benefit me. If you do want to kind of read more on this subject, you can check out my previous blog post on 10 things I wish my employer understood about sensory processing disorder. So since I wrote that post on my blog about being autistic in the workplace, I've had a couple of questions in my blog comments, which I thought I would answer in a blog post on my blog, but also in this podcast too. So, my first question in the comments of my blog were, are you autistic? I thought you had SPD. Now, here is the thing. I was diagnosed with sensory processing disorder, also known as SPD, aged 8. So over the years, I think I've slowly come to the kind of realisation that I might be autistic, as I have a lot of little like traits and sort of signs that point towards it. Many autistic people struggle with sensory issues, but I'd never really thought about it the other way around. Like, what if people like me with sensory issues actually sit somewhere on the autistic spectrum? So here are some traits that like I or others have noticed in myself. So I have a very literal understanding of language and find jokes and sarcasm hard to understand. The world can seem a very unpredictable and confusing place, and I prefer to have a daily routine so I know what to expect each day. So like I hate new things and change, and I always seem to react badly to them. I can cope better if I can prepare for changes in advance. So for example, like I would happily eat the same things every day if I could, and like I always found it difficult to move from one school to another and onto university as well. I find holidays or any time off work like very difficult and upsetting, so I have to make routines and to-do lists to form like a sort of schedule to live from. I also experience oversensitivity to sounds, touch, tastes, smells, light, colours, temperatures and pain. So this is all referred to as sensory sensitivity. So this is kind of one of my main kind of problems, is that my sensory sensitivity and just being overwhelmed on a daily basis. So I am often unable to understand and express my own needs, and I become upset and overwhelmed very easily. Next one is autistic people often have repetitive and restricted interests. So I find I am specifically drawn to and particularly love police, crime, medical documentaries and TV shows. Like I even did my uni dissertation on UK policing, even though I'm a graphic designer. I seek out time alone when I'm overloaded by other people. So I find social situations an absolute nightmare, and I try to desperately fit in, and I have a sort of fight or flight reaction to them. So this list is obviously goes on, and I have left off some more like private and personal problems that I struggle with that I'm not comfortable listing on the internet or on this podcast. Obviously, it's really difficult to kind of read out this list because it's very true, it's very brutal, and it's very honest, but it really does sum me up. So I've recently seen a psychologist who believes I am autistic and that I do have autistic traits. She feels I would sit somewhere on the autistic spectrum, and she's also encouraged me to go forward for a formal diagnosis. So I've recently been contemplating whether like it would be beneficial or not for me to be assessed. But the NHS waiting list is months long, and I would have to pay privately for this, and this can be quite expensive, sort of £800. UK doctors are not very clued up when it comes to sensory problems. This is a real shame, although some doctors are fab. So I was referred to an occupational therapist as a child, which was when I was diagnosed as having SPD. So OT referrals are only offered to babies and young children in the UK, and the service seems to stop as soon as you get any older. Once you are a teen or a young adult, you only seem to be offered talking therapies like CBT. I've seen an OT privately before, although again this can be expensive. It was definitely beneficial, and the main thing my occupational therapist taught me when I was a child were things like sort of fine motor skills, like being able to cut with scissors, grip a pen, pencil, etc. However, the main thing that an OT focuses on is desensitisation. So, big word, I realise. It's all about slowly learning to desensitise yourself to sensations you find hard, like touch, for example. So, I was taught about body brushing. I totally recommend looking up something called the Wilbarger Protocol, which is a form of brushing therapy. And there's a link on my blog if you want to read more about it. It's a brushing therapy that helps people desensitise their body, and you can do it at home. The brush can be bought online through Amazon, and it isn't expensive. However, I will say you should ideally do this under the supervision of an OT to make sure that you're using the right technique, but these instructions are helpful if you want to try it out for yourself. So I used to find it incredibly difficult to brush my hair and teeth. Although I still absolutely hate brushing my teeth, I am able to withstand the vibrating motion of an electric toothbrush in my hand, which is great, as I now brush my teeth much better, even if the sensation is still quite tricky. I'm also able to brush my hair. I apply a firm, heavy amount of pressure, which really helps me. I also totally recommend reading the book Too Loud, Too Bright, Too Fast, Too Tight by Sharon Hellier. It's on Amazon, both UK and US. I definitely recommend reading it if you're just if you're new to the whole sensory thing, it's worth a read. Even if you're not, and you've been kind of, you know someone who has sensory problems, or you yourself do, it's a great book to read. So it's called Too Loud, Too Bright, Too Fast, Too Tight. If you just Google that, it will come up, or there's a link on my blog as well. I also recommend looking up like sensory diets and weighted blankets, and reading my posts on my sensory DIY box, my weighted blanket review, and my sensory sort of box video. Again, links are on my blog. And I just want to say again, like, always feel free to continue to ask me questions in the comments on my blog, and I'll always try to answer them as best I can. I think that's it for this month's podcast. I hope it's been informative. I know it's been a little bit different, but I kind of wanted to, I don't know, not like shake things up a bit, but just, I don't know, try something different. Let me know what you think on social media. You know where to find me, and I will see you next month. Okay, bye.